Hi, I'm Marty Levinson, and welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson, and welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Back to that lemon light city, sweet Hope, Chicago. 2 is 4, 4 4 6. Come on, baby, now get your business fixed. Come on.
Hi there, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine with the greatest cameraman around, Sonny Hersh, and your host, Avi Meyers.
Thank you, Marty. Avi Meyers here, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hersh and myself. Sonny, of course, being our entire technical crew. Join us every single Thursday in Chicago at 7:30 p.m., 8 p.m. in Evanston, 2:30 in Chicago on Friday, and in 30 or 35 north and northwest suburbs, we're on Mondays at 6 o'clock. Big supporters of community policing. CAPS24.org is where you go to find out where the community policing meetings are in our neighborhood. Sonny Hersh, in his spare time, is the chairman of the District Advisory Committee of the 24th District. There are more problems in the neighborhood. There's no question burglaries and robberies are up. We urge you to go to your CAPS meeting. In this neighborhood, go to CAPS24.org to see where your neighborhood meeting is. Citywide, call 311, and it's a good thing to find out what's going on in your neighborhood and stay involved and all the rest of it. And speaking of somebody who's very much a neighborhood person on a number of levels, longtime alderman of the 4th Ward for something like 20 years, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
And also, very cool, has her own show on CAN TV, Alderman Toni Preckwinkle. Alderman, how are you?
Nice to see you. Thank you for inviting me.
First of all, thank you, and thank you so much for being here, and we're glad to see you.
Thank you.
Okay. When is your show? Your show is on Mondays?
Mondays at 9, channel 21.
Mondays at 9, channel 21?
First and third Monday.
And check it out. So anyway, enjoy it. And we want to thank John Keller, too, who I made the initial contact with.
Yes.
He's your campaign manager?
He's our deputy campaign manager. Scott Cizik is our campaign manager.
Okay. And he writes excellent press releases, by the way.
Thank you. That's Jesse.
And, oh, sorry about that. But you know what? John's kept me in touch, and I really appreciate that.
Good.
Oh, and I'll give you my Facebook, John. Don't really Twitter. in any event. So, okay, you've been alderman. You've been very successful. Now, you're in the Hyde Park, Kenwood area.
Well, my ward extends from 55th Street on the south to 26th Street on the north, and roughly King Drive to the lake.
Okay, and so you've been in city council. How did you initially get involved in politics?
When I was 16, I was in high school. My high school social studies teacher, Richard Harmon, was involved in the campaign of a woman named Katie McWatt. Katie was the first African-American woman to run for city council in St. Paul, Minnesota, where I grew up. And I worked in her campaign. I stuffed envelopes. I made phone calls. I tried to get people to put out yard signs. And although Mrs. McWatt did not win the election, I decided I liked politics. So when I came to Chicago to go to college, I continued to work in political campaigns. Up until the time that I first ran myself for alderman in '83, when I lost. I ran in '87 and I lost. In 1991, I won by 109 votes out of 11,000 cast.
Wow. Well, you did something right, that's for sure.
Well, the third time was the charm, as it turns out.
Yeah, definitely. So, have you enjoyed it?
It's a great job. The way in which Chicago works, aldermen have incredible discretion, and if you have a vision for what you want and you're willing to work hard, you can accomplish a good deal.
Now let me ask you, because you're making the move now to run for president of the Cook County Board.
Yes.
Okay, so you've basically been alderman is more of a legislative job. This is an executive job.
Actually, alderman is a kind of odd combination of things.
Well, tell me.
Well, a lot of it is constituent service. People come in, their mail isn't delivered timely. They want pothole fixed in the street. They'd like to get their kid into one of the neighborhood high schools, or elementary schools for that matter. They want some help finding affordable housing or finding work. So there's a lot of constituent service involved in being an alderman. There's also a lot, frankly, of, for many of us anyway, a lot of development work. In my ward, there were 3,000 vacant city-owned lots when I became alderman in 1991. There are less than 300 left now. So we've done a lot of infill housing. We've worked on CHA transformation initiatives. I've done a lot of work around trying to improve the quality of my public schools, around public safety, and more recently around trying to enhance and lift up our retail districts, our arterial streets. So we've done a lot of done a lot of work that's commercially focused.
No, very good. Now you definitely have more of you're known for an independent streak in
Right.
general.
Actually, most recently, your viewers may be aware, I was not a supporter of the parking meter lease, for example. There were 5 of us, Alderman Scott Wagasback, Alderman Ray Colon, Alderman Billy Ocasio, Alderman Leslie Hairston, and myself. And there were 5 out of 50 who did not think that was such a good idea, and we've had some terrible problems in the interval after that lease, so some of the concerns we had have been borne out.
I'm not a fan of the lease at all, as a matter of fact, and I do happen to know that there's no question that up in my neck of the woods on Devon, the businessmen are hurting like crazy. People don't want to park there. People are avoiding it like the plague, and businesses are down. People aren't interested in it. I think people are actually, because we're close enough to Evanston, that people are going elsewhere. They're going out of the city in this part to do stuff they might have otherwise done. I mean, the people who might specialize the different ethnic stores, like the Indian, Pakistani, Jewish, may not have much of a choice, but even they're being more judicious about shopping. It's hurting business. People are upset. This is sort of like Blandick with the snow.
Right.
And there's definitely, people have just had enough of a lot, and I'm not a fan at all. Let's put it that way.
Well, I just gave it as an example of my willingness on occasion to be in the minority and to vote my conscience. And in this instance, I think that, as I said, the 5 of us who did not go along, for different reasons, I might say. Some of us were concerned about whether or not this was a good idea, a good deal for the city. The $1.15 billion deal. Is this a good deal or not? And it's hard to know when you only have a week to think about it. So some people were against it because they thought it wasn't a good deal financially, and others because they, as I said, there's no way to figure out whether it's a good deal in 7 days.
Yeah. You know what? You brought up an interesting point that different people are independent for different reasons. This is something I've asked of Joe Moore also over the course of time. Okay, because you know what? Chicago is a definitely varied city, although certainly a lot of the city councils along a certain line or together with. Would you say, like, okay, in terms of the mayor, would you say, like, I mean, in the old days, you might find somebody like, let's say Leon, I don't know about specifically Leon Dupre, but on so many occasions he would be dead set if the mayor said yes, or like a guy like Billy Singer, he'd want to say no.
Right.
Okay.
Am I in that position? No.
No, not. Well, yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, would you say like you agree with them 50% of the time, 80% of the time, or?
Well, I think what most people don't understand is that most of the matters that come before the city council are routine or non-controversial. So really, the number of divided votes is very, very small. I would say that 95% of the time we're all in agreement. It's where to put stop signs. It's things that everybody there's a consensus about, or it's matters that are related to a particular ward, and the alderman has made a decision, and you go along with it. But on those cases where the body is divided, I'm often on the losing side.
That I've read. I do. You should know I read this stuff religiously, and. Listen, I admire somebody with the courage to be independent. That's for sure.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about the county issues. There's so much stuff I don't even know where to say. County's obviously in huge trouble. Well, first of all, you know what? Let's talk about the tax increase. Were you in favor of the repeal of the tax increase?
Yes, from the very beginning, I've said that we have to repeal the penny increase in taxes. I think it's had a devastating effect on ordinary working people in the county, and particularly in the communities that are at the edge of the county, where people can go across the county line, or in the southern part of the county, go across the state line into Indiana and have considerably less taxes on the goods that they want to purchase. And what that means is that our business people lose money, of course, lose the customers, and our commercial strips in our communities lose the dollars as well. So I think it's had a devastating effect, and what I've pledged is that in my first term I would repeal it. I'd do it in increments so we could balance out the reductions in income with the reductions in expenses.
Okay, very good. Okay, you know what? Another thing. So the budget. Now, the budget is definitely a problem. What do you feel you're going to do about the budget?
Well, I had a friend who worked in the budget office look at the budget, and basically he said, go in there with a blank sheet of paper, because the budget's being made up on the basis of the previous year's budget and not on the basis of actual income and expenses. So you're going to have to go in and kind of figure it out from the very beginning. So that's going to take some time and hard work. And also, I think we need to look at the departments and agencies in the county and see which ones we really need. A lot of county government was set up in a time when there were huge parts of the county that were unincorporated. And actually, there's very little unincorporated area left now. So we need to look at what the county is doing and see whether we're really marshaling our resources appropriately.
Very good. The hospital, okay, that of course is one of the biggest items there. Now, right now there's a board in place that oversees the hospital.
It's a temporary circumstance.
Yeah.
Larry suffered in return for his vote for the sales tax increase. Asked
By the way, you'll probably see on the show next week.
All right, good. Good. Larry's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Got President Stroger to agree to a 3-year trial period for an independent governing board. I think we need to continue that and make it permanent. I think we need to separate the hospital and the clinics, the healthcare system, from political interference. We don't want it to be a patronage dumping ground. We want it to be a professional operation that serves well the 5.3 million people in Cook County. So I support, first and foremost, continuing this independent governance.
Very good. Another thing that's come up that's rather controversial, of course, there's so much with the county right now that is. And,
right.
And, you know, there's some talk of, some people have proposed actually releasing prisoners from Cook County Jail in order to save money.
Well, I wouldn't support just mass letting people go from the jail. But what I do support is 2 ways I think that are appropriate to reduce the jail population. One is what they call diversion programs. Sheriff Dart has a small, what they call day reporting program. Folks who would otherwise be in the jail go to the jail at 9 o'clock in the morning. They're released at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They begin with substance abuse treatment programs because just about everybody who comes into the jail has a substance abuse problem, whether or not they're there for a drug offense. And of course, a lot of people are there for drug offenses. So they work with them on their addiction, and then if they continue to be clean and sober when they have these random drug tests, they then go into education and employment training. So they begin working with them on their addiction and then move them into education and employment training. If they can't continue to pass the drug test, they go back into the jail population. So there's a real incentive to stay clean. At the back end, I think we need to do more alternative sentencing. We've got to sentence people to things like drug treatment. We've got to sentence people to boot camp. We've got to sentence people to electronic monitoring, things that allow us to help them be on a more productive path rather than just sitting in the jail, where clearly they're not doing anything that's going to improve their life prospects.
Very good. Of course, there were so many cuts that involved things like the state's attorney's office and the sheriff. I mean, do you see any way to bring back revenue, or?
Well, I think there are a couple things that are going on. One is that the county has not been vigorous in its pursuit of federal resources to support the programs that it implements and administers. So one of the things I think you've got to do is set up an office whose responsibility it is to kind of gather all of the prospective funding sources and make sure that the county applies for those funding sources and hopefully gets them. I've particularly been told by people in the healthcare field that the county could apply for a lot of federal support for its hospitals and clinics and just simply doesn't do so. So that's one thing to do. Try to find out what other resources are out there and bring them into the county to help support our programs. But the other thing is I think we desperately need to look carefully at what the county does and figure out what it needs to be doing going forward. And perhaps the things that it's done for the last 100 years aren't necessarily what it needs to be doing as we look to the future. So I think we've got to look carefully at county, not just at the budget side, but actually at the programs and figure out what's necessary and important and maybe what isn't in this time.
Okay. I want you to bring up an issue now.
Well, one of the things I think the county has to do, which it hasn't been very involved in, is regional programming and economic development, regional planning. There are a number of agencies, the Metropolitan Planning Council, Metropolis 2020, the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, it's called CMAP, that look at regional issues. And the county, frankly, has been missing in action. And the county needs to be at the center of those kind of regional planning initiatives because we're the center of the region, and we need to be sure that we're a player at the table as we look at regional issues. We also need to do things like support Senator Durbin, bless his heart, who's pushing things like the high-speed rail system, which would have Chicago as the hub of a network with spokes that go out to Detroit or Indianapolis or St. Louis or Minneapolis and St. Paul, the Twin Cities. Chicago's the capital, economic capital of the Midwest, and we have to cement that relationship in relation to some of these other metropolitan areas, and I think that's a good way to do it. It's also a wonderful infrastructure project that will create lots of jobs, and that's another reason for us to support it. We need to think about how the county government can support and nurture the growth, economic growth and development of the region. This is a huge county, 5.3 million people. You know, it takes you an hour or two to drive from one end to the other, and not even in rush hour. So.
And I guess you're finding out in this campaign.
Yeah, as we're finding out in this campaign. So, you know, I think you have to have a broad vision for the entire county to be successful. And you need not only to look at what the county has done in the past and try to improve your performance, but you've got to look at other arenas in which the county's been absent, such as regional planning and looking at economic growth and development issues where the county needs to play a role and hasn't in the past.
Very good. One question I want to ask you, because I think things are going to get rushed afterwards, and I usually would ask you this off the air. Are you Obama's alderman?
The President of the United States has a home a block away. I live at 51st and Greenwood, and the President's house is at the corner of, I live at 52nd and Greenwood, and his house is at the corner of 51st and Greenwood. So when he's in town, things get a little crazy in my neighborhood.
Now that I can understand. That I can understand. By the way, there was a really fascinating article that actually I referred to in the last Jewish Chicago a couple of years ago. You know, but make sure you take a couple of copies. I'll make sure John Keller does too.
All right.
By a neighborhood reporter from your area who's down in Houston, and he wrote like a magazine-length story. And you're mentioned quite a bit in there, and it's very interesting stuff.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen it, so I'd love to.
Oh, you know what? I'll give you an old paper. You'll have the link in there, and I'll email the direct link to John. It's just a really fascinating piece. I actually got that off Capital Facts.
Okay.
At this point, you know, you should give people your, if people want to contact your campaign.
Sure. Our campaign phone number is 773-924-5042, 773-924-5042. And it's Toni Preckwinkle, Toni with an I, PRECKWINKLE.org. ToniPreckwinkle.org is our web address.
I want to thank you very much, and I want to wish you good luck in the campaign. I want to thank John Keller, who brought you here. And, you know, of course, we'll try to get you back on again near the election time.
I'd love to come back. Thank you.
And good luck with your Access show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.